Do you ever feel like you are silently self-sabotaging yourself? Like you're stepping away from stepping into a higher purpose? That you're even preventing things that you truly desire? And deep down inside, there's a sense of maybe inner betrayal, a lack of self-trust? Where do these things even come from? I had a recent realization lately that might be helpful to you. And it's this idea that even though we perceive our childhood as to be good, everything's going great, there are things that happen when we grow up that, like a record being engraved with grooves, get programmed into our subconscious mind. And these deeply ingrained beliefs that run silently in the background could be responsible for the reason why we self sabotage ourselves, the reason why we stop ourselves from reaching for higher levels of abundance, for reaching for higher levels of freedom and peace. So, with that being said, let's get right into the video. I had this recent realization lately as I've been doing some deep inner shadow work, going deep into this side of myself, the subconscious side of myself, and seeing the programming that's running back there. Polyvinyl chloride. They make up these discs, and these discs are etched and grooved with a sort of needle that vibrates at a certain frequency, which then when you put this disc in something like a record player, and you put the needle of the record player on this disc, it'll read those old vibrations that were engraved into the disc and play a sound, right? Play a song or whatever. And our subconscious mind works somewhat the same way, where as we're growing up, as you're a young child, you're purely subconscious mind. The conscious mind develops over your lifetime, right? Late into your 20s or something like that. But as you're growing up, your subconscious mind is purely a sponge, picking up on thoughts, behaviors, patterns, and actions that are all happening around you, and then internalizing these things as beliefs. These beliefs later form your perception, which then allow you to, take specific actions, perform specific behaviors, whether they're toxic or non-toxic, and even the way you speak, the words you say about yourself. So I had this realization about myself because even though we perceive our childhoods as being great, my childhood was overall pretty good, like my relationship with my parents, for example. But there was a few incidents that came up when I was going deep into the subconscious part of myself during a meditation. It was almost presented to me. And it's this idea that, I had three other siblings. There's four of us. And my parents, they did the best that they could to be fair. So if one person got something, then the other three also got something. And you would think, like, as a parent, even as a parent today, yeah, that's a that's a great idea. That's perfect. And and so did I. I thought that too until I grew up and realized, doing this sort of inner work, that there was an old underlying belief from an incident, a few incidents that I remembered where I had worked really hard for something. I was promised something. If you work really hard, you'll get this. And I worked really hard and I got those things. But at the same time, when I got those things, my three other siblings also received something just because I received it, because that would be fair. Now, that being said, it was great. I got what I wanted. But deep down, at the subconscious level, there was a belief. What do you think the belief that was formed there? The belief that was formed there was, no matter how hard I work for things in life, that I'm going to get the same as everybody else. Can you imagine that? And below that, we talk about the perception that it forms. I went through most of my middle-aged life, not middle-aged, but my young life in my teens, late 20s, thinking that it wasn't worth the effort to put the extra effort in to go the extra mile, because I would just get, again, playing those old vibrations on the record, I would just get the same as everybody else. Now you can imagine this is such a toxic mindset to have when you're building a life for yourself, when you're trying to build freedom and abundance for yourself, when you are building a business or something that you feel is much bigger than yourself. Because what I found is I was constantly silently self-sabotaging myself. Every time I get closer to success, I would be procrastinating. I would hold back. That's because there was this deeper part of me that said, why try? What's the point? You're just going to get the same as everybody else. And these things play out in our minds silently in the background. And so, how did I deal with this specific thing? You might deal with these behaviors in a very specific way. And I've actually outlined a process called the Shift Workshop, where I'll take you through over an hour and go through these specific things, these silent, insidious things running in the background that are preventing you from higher levels of abundance, higher level of wealth, higher level of peace and freedom. I'll leave a link down below if you're interested in that. But the way I dealt with this is I began writing in a journal. And this, you might want to really think about journaling, even if you've never done it before, because the act of writing it down, the act of thinking about what you're going to say and choosing which words you're going to say begins to interface with this deeper part of yourself. And so I created a victory journal, a victory log. At the end of every day, I take 3 things that I did that day that I did really well, and I write them down. 3 wins. I do that every night, 3 wins. And when I write down my 3 wins, I gauge, was this a good day? Was it a great day? Was it an awesome day? Based on, did I do these 3 things or not? And leading to that, the other part of this is celebrating these victories. So beginning to recognize my wins, beginning to do things just for myself. I never did things, I would always abandon myself to go help others. Let me know in the comments if you're somebody who abandons yourself to go help others. But this is a behavior that's often formed from a young age, from this deeper subconscious programming. And you can follow this backwards. Maybe you may not realize these deeper things. Maybe they'll come up over time. But by recognizing the behaviors you have today, thinking about the actions and behaviors I'm taking today, what's the payoff of that? And then working your way backwards, you can begin to unravel some of these stories from your past, to begin to see the themes that are coming together that, despite being well-intentioned in the past, have formed maybe a shadow side, have formed maybe a darker part of your psyche. And this is the process of freeing yourself from the shackles of the mind, so you can truly move in any direction you want and actually win. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Check out the link below. Until next time, peace.